If I can get some work done today. Feeling a little lethargic. Brain's not totally ready to join me here, but anytime that happens, it's just a matter of getting started, and things usually roll on reasonably well. So, I think I'm looking forward to the stream. We'll see how things go. One of the first things I have to do is flop the scene over here and actually have a look at some changes I made here. It's more just organizational changes. I made a new library called Baton, and it's just going to be just a collection of reagent components. So right now it's a very short collection. Scratch is a mess of code that I have to probably get rid of entirely and fix related to draggable items. But inputs are the two ones I'm using at the moment, and it's just text box and slider inputs. So very simple right now. But I separated that out from, I had a thing called ASDF, which was just a Scratch spot for reagent stuff that I was working on. I pulled that out and I made a project specifically for the dumbbells that I'm designing. And it should, I'm in the dumbbells directory here in this terminal, and it should let me compile and open up right here. But before I do that, I want to actually see if there's a way that I can I don't know if this will work. I think it might not because of I have Figwheel running, or it's supposed to be running, and there might be like some piggyback thing that I have to do that I don't know if this is going to work. That's all. It's not a big deal. I'm just curious. Select the REPL type. What are the options? Figwheel, Figwheel, main. Oops. Did something go wrong? Oh, it's working. It appears to be working. Okay, I think that's a success. It's a little slow here for the moment. Okay, let me JS/alert. Hi. No dice, eh? I wonder if it's the lowercase? Yeah, okay. So that's just proving that the browser and this REPL are connected. So it's in fact, this is a Clojure script REPL, and the execution environment, as far as I understand it, is actually all happening in the browser here. I believe that's what's going on, though I might be misunderstanding things a little bit. But point is, I've got a REPL that I could potentially test stuff out in nicely. So we shall see how that all goes. Oh. Gotta get comfortable today. Gotta get comfy. Okay. There's a few things that aren't great about this setup. One, it's slow. This does not operate smoothly. Be nice if it did. The user experience, if you want to call it that, is weak. Just out of curiosity, I want to see what happens if I do this. Ah, it does. Okay, so we're in the okay, good. Things do work. Kinda. Oh, this could be a nice workflow. This is theoretically not needed. This is my main project that I'm designing. This is the REPL, and this is the visual output. I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully, I can make it work in my favor. So what I actually want to do, though, is redesign this document structure a little bit. Basically, let's try to give myself a little more screen real estate here. This is kind of ugly looking, unfortunately. So. There's a few things that have to happen. The design of the document itself, I want to have visual explanations for what these parameters actually are to the user so that they know what they're changing. And writing a bit of text for that might make sense. I also am thinking about, oh yeah, and so the actual document, I want a bit of prose kind of in there, so I need to figure out a nice way to write that up. Shouldn't be too hard. I could define a string basically and just have the string rendered out into Markdown. I have to think about that, but I could probably make something that works. In fact, just for kicks, let's see, and content. Let's just make some weird macro ASDF and content. And I want it to take that content and well, what do I want it to do? I want it to do nothing with any of it except apply string to it. Is that going to do anything useful? Ooh, wrong. Oh, well, of course, I have to apply string to content. There we go. So if I do ASDF, this is something that has content in it. It also has new lines and stuff. I think this won't work. Okay. Something's wrong here. Compile warning, use of undeclared variable. Yeah, okay, so that's not what I was expecting, but let's just for fun here. Oops. Forge.org. Okay, there we go. We're gonna launch a Clojure REPL here. Pardon me. Because I'm wondering if the way to define macros is distinct. How do I want to actually do this though? Okay, let's close that. Close that. 2. Okay, here's just a Clojure REPL. Def macro ASDF taking and content, and it's going to apply string to content, and this should work. This is some content. It also has new lines. Yeah, okay, so there's 2 things going on. One, I'm pretty sure you can define, you can make, maybe making it a macro is the wrong approach, I'm not sure. You also don't need to make it a macro, I guess, because the same thing would happen, right? No. Oh, okay. Alright, let me explain what I'm thinking, just so that it's verbally out there. If ASDF is a macro, what happens is you can have ASDF here, and then you can type things without using quotation marks. This is possible here because macros run before at compile time in a some loose sense. So all of these would normally be considered symbols, leading to errors since the symbols don't exist, but macro runs its computations before the symbols are interpreted. That's a bad explanation, but that's what's going on here. None of those symbols are being computed at all, right? They're all inside the macro call. So the macro call happens, and then it does its thing, and whatever's remaining, then it would be evaluated. But there's obvious issues. Well, one, defining macros in Clojure script is a little complicated. I believe it's just you have to put them in a different file and then load the file or something like that. So I don't know if that's a smart approach. The other thing is if you just string this, I mean, I could do something with a macro like this, apply string not to content, but interpose the separator space with content. That should work. And then the same call here, it will maintain mostly the correct approach here, except you get weird extra spaces and you still lose new lines, right? Like if I do this, oops, if I the end, this won't work. See, it just totally obliterates new lines because there's no concept of new line as a symbol, so that isn't helpful. I wonder, I'm going to try just a few more weird things. The reason I'm just experimenting with this at all is related to, if I can have some simple function that I can just type things inside it, I can actually write I can write notes directly in the code. There's just this and then it can be used, it can compile, it can then be transformed into Markdown and then into Hiccup and then into HTML, kind of all automatically. I'm not even making sense. This is just some rough thinking that I'm messing around with. What if I just try something weird like this, where I do, if I just return, not like that, no, it would have to be, no, this isn't gonna work. This is weird. I don't think it's gonna work at all. Trying to assemble strings around, this is not gonna work. Yeah, no. Let's see. Let's just search one thing. Clojure, Markdown, macro. Let's see if someone has examples of this that I could build off of. I don't expect there to be anything particularly helpful right away, but code is data, data is code. Oh, this is, okay, merge custom styles into default styles. That's not exactly what I'm looking for here. Custom component stuff. It's all fine and good, but it's not quite what I'm looking for here. This is different. That's fine. Let's see what, okay, this might, yeah. This is actually kind of interesting. A multi-line arbitrary text comment form does not exist in Clojure. So there's a patch adding some multi-line comments. It's kind of neat. Meta queue. I'm learning new things, maybe? Oh, or not. Let's try one more ridiculous thing here for a moment. Oh, that's cool. Okay. What am I looking at here? Huh, that's kind of neat. It's a reflow function. Well, okay. I don't need it, but yeah, this is what I've done before. Turns everything into a string. But so using this, right? So using this approach, I could make a function that takes that's kind of pointless at that point. Okay, let me not worry about this right now. This is a tangent I don't need to go on, so I won't go on it anymore, at least for the time being. Okay, so dumbbells, that's what I'm trying to work on. That's what I need to pay attention to. Let's do this. There. Okay, so we've got, may as well make this forge again. Yeah, don't really need it, but it's there just in case. All right, let's see if I can get anything useful done here. Comment or uncommon regions, eh? Oop. Only at the front, I guess. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Right. Okay. All right, let's try to tune in on this. Get a little bit of design work done here. Okay. So one thing I do have is builder, right? It's been a while since I've run the Markdown parser in the Stylo library. I know it's not complete, but I wonder if I could use one function to help me a little bit here. What I want to do is create the title, I guess we'll call it. Def title is just I don't know what, we'll just call it dumbbells. Sure, that's good. That's perfect. That's def title. Def intro here would be some blurb now. This is just kind of filler, parametric in the desired mass. Given a plate thickness, maximum radius of hex shapes, and the desired final, and then the desired mass of the finished dumbbell, this app will calculate the design for you. Okay, so that is some, you can use this in your browser. Just try adjusting some settings. Okay, there. So that's some blurb. That's title and intro. This is what so this is a string that, I shouldn't start it like that, that has a line break in, or a new line in there, so it's 2 paragraphs. I don't want to have to split each thing into its own paragraphs, and I theoretically want to be able to do things like this, where I put the Markdown formatting inside there. So in order to do that, I have to parse it basically before I can put it, like I could do this, p intro, and I get kind of a decent format, but it's not what I want. I also don't know if this really is the right way to design the document, but I'm gonna go forward with it because I can always change it. I mean, it's text, right? So things can change pretty easily. That is fine with me. Okay, so what I do need to do is try to load stylo.builder as builder. See if that actually loads. No such namespace. Ah, right. Right. Okay, that's a bit of a problem. let's try something new here. Okay, builder. Okay, so I could basically all I really need I could duplicate here. I'm gonna try this. Just what have I done? Okay, we've got two builder namespaces here. Wait a second, can I, let's try something weird here. Let me try I don't think this will work, but it's going to be fun to try. Okay. No, that's not a smart approach either. No, what I need to do is split. If I want to be able to use the parser, this test doesn't exist. Okay. I need all these transforms can exist, that's fine. Even this is fine here. This here is where I need to split things off, right? Because this is where things start to, this isn't even a compiler, it's just a that's a little helpful. This here is the only spot. This is the spot that starts to require HTML. So what I can do is split it into a new namespace so that all the Instaparse stuff doesn't need hiccup at all. So, and then I can import that part of the library into here and use the parser to produce valid hiccup, which in the context of a reagent app will automatically be usable in the reagent app itself. So I don't even need hiccup. That's what I'm trying to work through here, because this compile exception occurs because builder from Stylo is using hiccup, and hiccup is only a Clojure library, but this dumbbell design is a Clojure script project, so I can't use hiccup in it at all. So that's what's going wrong. Seems like a little, maybe not the right process, maybe not the right thinking for this, but it seems reasonable as a way to design the builder. So we'll see. Main. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do actually is make a new okay, this whole part here, as far as I understand, here, I'm going to make a new division here. This is builder. This up here is all parser. Yeah. Okay, this is a good start. So builder, I need a namespace for builder, which should be mostly the same. This all makes sense, except I don't think I need instaparse.core technically. Man, this needs, I haven't looked at this in a while. There's a lot of stuff that needs cleaning in on this part as well. There is work to be done. Okay, so this is all the hiccup stuff in Clojure string. That makes sense to me, but I also do need to require, let's go here, stylo.parser refer all. Since this builder thing is only in a Clojure context, this doesn't work in Clojure script using a keyword all there, but it works in Clojure, so I'm gonna allow that like that. And now here I need to make a new file. Whoops, I need to make this parser.cljc, and then all of these need to be changed to tangle into the parser file as well. And here I have to get rid of all the hiccup, and presumably this can go as well. So it's just those two things, instaparse and Clojure string, to build the proper parser. I sure hope that's okay. We'll find out soon whether or not it's actually going to work. And if it doesn't work, that's totally fine. It's part of the process. Extensions, transformers, parser. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. And it does, oh, did I miss something? I did. This here. Parser. Okay, so there's this is not what I need. I need a function basically that does this here. Yeah. Yeah. So So that should work. We'll save it, tangle all of those there. So instead of calling stylo.builder here, we can actually do stylo dot parser as parser. Save it, compiling, build, compile warning. Ah, yes, of course. So I think I forgot to change something in the namespace, which is a problem. There's two things going wrong here, maybe. There's a read string thing, which is of course, oh here, this is a problem. Parser, stylo.parser is what I need. And read string here, shoot. There is I had a fix for this and I don't remember what it was. Well, let's try to, okay, this should cause errors, which is what I want. Okay, so this is not, I'm pretty sure this is not actually correct. We'll find out. Let's try to run. Let's def intro component is parser slash to hiccup of parser slash doc parse the intro. Okay, that's theoretically that intro. And now here, define doc. First thing I want to do now is actually do intro component. Since it should theoretically be just text, that should have worked, but I see no change. Probably there's more wrong than I'm thinking, which is fine in theory. Whoa, it worked. I honestly didn't expect that. Let's check that this does make sense. So if I save this, the word design, it does change, yeah. Cool, it's actually working. I'm happy with that. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that that worked. I didn't expect it to. Now, just because I'm curious about it, I wonder what happens if I do something crazy like this. The desired mass is currently oh, this won't. Ouch. This isn't working. I want to try be clever and put like some val, right? Like as a templating sort of thing, but that's, I'd have to build some more functionality into this, which I don't have in right now. So what I can do instead is not that, and it's fine. So this here I can kind of do instead, which is good enough for that'll be good enough for today for sure. I'm pretty happy that this actually parses, which is nice. Basically, what I'm thinking in my head as I do this is if I do string this desired mass is, close the string, here's some value at g-desired mass, right? And then I make a new string right here. That should work. Let's see if I'm thinking about it correctly or if it just breaks. Okay. Desired mass is 5, which it should say pounds, right? But that's a me problem. LBS would fix that there. Cool. And that should change if I toggle this. Okay, it doesn't. So it doesn't reparse. Okay, that is because this is treated, oh here, this will, right? If I make it a function instead, then I call this as a react or reagent function, whatever it's called, as a reactive component, this should now reflect the change. Things are a little slow here. Ah, it didn't work. Interesting. Still some stuff for me to learn, clearly. That's okay though. Let's give this stuff a try. It's part of the fun, learning, poking around, you know? I love it. Okay, it appears to be broken. Is that true? If I get rid of this, does it fix itself? Some's a little slow today. This is normally a bit faster. I'm not sure what I've done wrong. Oh, of course, this is also, I'm being a little silly here. I'm getting hasty. Okay, so if I def string this intro component, okay. Oh, def intro, okay. Let's get to some display, please. Please. Close that one. We'll just make things, we'll try to get things as simple as possible here. I like simple. Simple's good. What's going on? Well, we got somewhere, but it stopped working. Alright, let's have a look here. Unexpected end of file. Really? Ugh. I goofed it. Okay, let's now give this a shot. Okay, we've got display. That's good. So, what I want to do, well, first of all, so things move. See, there's a lot of calculation dependent on the mass here, so it's doing a lot of work, and that slows things down. Makes me wonder if I could kind of add core async to make some of these things work in their own threads and kind of keep the main process snappy. I'm sure there's clever ways to do that. I just don't know them yet. Right, so what I actually want to do here is define this as a function, intro component. Nothing else should change here. And now this should be reactive. Oh, Yes, yes, yes. This is me being silly. There. Ooh. Not working, eh? Why is that? I wonder if they both have to be functions. Probably, eh? Define intro. This thing. And then you call intro here. No dice. What is wrong? Let's see. Errors. Show me some errors, please. No? I suppose not. Okay, there we go. Objects are not valid as a React child. I'm afraid I don't understand what's going on. Well, let's see. Right, so if I call intro component, if I change this to regular brackets, is it? What? No way. Huh. Okay, I gotta figure out what that means. I don't understand. Okay, see, this is working now, right? See, it's cool. I like the idea of having, if you're writing prose, if you're referencing things in the document, or in the, let me start this sentence over. If you have prose, so just paragraphs explaining parts of your design, and in that paragraph you have references to values in the design, so desired mass equaling a value, it would be really cool to be able to render the actual value that changes along with the user's interaction, which is what I was kind of just testing out here. And it does work, which is really cool. I'm pretty pleased about that. Now let me just check one more thing, because I might not, there's a good chance I don't completely understand everything about reagent rendering. It's entirely possible. Okay, so that, they do, in order for things to react to the values stored in atoms, they do have to be functions, because presumably reagent kind of tracks all the functions that are dereffing something, and then we'll recall that function. So if it's not a function, it's just a value. So this is evaluated a single time, and it's not reactive. It's not kind of hooked into the reactive system. That's my guess. There's quite a bit more for me to learn so that I can actually explain it better in the future, because having a partial understanding is helpful for getting prototypes working, but you really want a thorough understanding to increase your just trust in what you're building over time, right? This should work now. If I refresh this, it should probably be fine, right? Yeah, okay. Desired mass. Okay, cool. So that's good to know that I can do that, but let me just simplify once again here. Let's not do that. We shall I also want to check one thing while I'm changing a few things here. Intro string, intro component here, parse intro. In fact, I can actually do this a little smoother. I can do, let's see. Let's make a parse function. Parse and strings. Yeah. Hey Mike, I'm doing well today. How are you? Hope things are going okay. I'm feeling pretty good myself actually about some of the progress that's going on here. If you give me 1 second, I can get a cool visual on screen. Not sure if you will have seen it already, but it's something I'm pretty proud of. So let me just finish making this sort of helper function here. If I comp parser slash hiccup into hiccup with parser slash comp, that's not what I mean, doc parse, this function. Yeah, just another day in paradise debugging code. Oh man, sometimes it's a paradise, sometimes it's, well, just not quite a paradise. Depends on how things are going. Actually, debugging is a weird sort of thing for me where it's like this constant low-level frustration, but this immense satisfaction once you've figured out what's going on. So it's like this sort of, you kind of love debugging, but kind of hate it at the same time. I'm not speaking for you, that's my experience. Hope it's going okay though. Hope it's going okay. Come on, brain, what am I doing right now here? Let's do map cat. Is that the right thing? I wonder. I'm not sure if that's the smart thing or a dumb thing to do, but we'll find out. So map cat this function onto the strings list that you pass in. I wonder if this will work. We'll find out soon. It's debugging an SQL statement, so it's a bit more than low-level frustration. Totally fair. But it's part of the job, so you pay your dues. Yeah. Get the enjoyment of figuring out the problem, though. Yeah. That's the part that I always do feel really satisfied with, you know? And especially if you actually can point out, okay, look, this is what's going on, and this is what we can change to make it better. Like, oh, those things don't always happen, but when they do, it's awesome. But yeah, I'm not envious of you having to debug some SQL statements. That's always a little bit of a headache. It's probably for myself a weaker point in my, like, it's probably a bit of a knowledge gap in my developer knowledge in general. Databases are these things that are really important, but they're also things I've managed to avoid thinking about a lot of the time. And I do wonder in the back of my mind if that's kind of a really big weakness of my strategies. So, you know, on the one hand, I'm not jealous of you having to debug SQL, but on the other, if you know enough to be able to debug SQL, that's a pretty good skill, right? It's just a matter of practice for me. I just haven't had to do it much. But good luck. Good luck with your debugging, of course. Try not to let me distract you, okay? I'd hate to be causing problems on your end. That'd be no good. Okay, I wrote this function. Is it gonna work? Let's get rid of this here. Let's try to make this intro component now with this markdown function. Let's try that. So this intro component is just markdown, and I'm just going to pass into it title and intro, and let's see if that renders in any intelligible fashion. Let's find out. Intro component. It's a welcome distraction? Well, in that case, I'm glad I can help. Ooh, it broke. I love it when that happens. All right, let's see what's going on here. What do we got? Oh, you know what I should do? I can actually run this in the REPL. Why don't I? Let me see what this spits out for me. If I do this, okay. It looks correct-ish. Oh no, it's not correct. There's errors. There's a mistake. Well, let me do markdown not of both, but of just intro. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that works. Let's do markdown of just title. Okay, so there's some parsing error here. Why would that be? Probably will this work? I forgot that the parser I built isn't done and isn't good. It doesn't totally, there's probably, yeah, not sure if I love that. All right, what just happened there is, so the parser I'm using is, I'm using an instaparse library, and that instaparse, you use a BNF grammar, or you write a grammar in a different language. The parser takes the grammar, builds a state machine that then traverses whatever you pass it and parses it into a tree. And then you can transform that tree. That's all great, but there's a lot of stuff I don't know about the BNF grammar writing. And so I have an underdeveloped grammar that works in a lot of cases, but not every case. So in this case, this string gives an error because there is no new line terminating the string here. But this works because there's new lines terminating here and here. So that the new lines help delineate paragraphs. So it's kind of, there's some mess is basically the short explanation of that. So let me try to mark down this title for a moment. Oop, things are going wrong. Hey. What? It worked. Okay. Okay, so since this is, so it's not perfect, but it does kind of work, which does let me still build out cool things. So could just put \n if you wanted it all on one line too. Yeah, so that's definitely true, not a problem. I don't like that as a permanent solution, just because if I'm writing, like if I'm, imagine myself as an author, right? I'm typing away. It would be wildly unproductive for me to have to put /n at the end of all my new lines. So I don't want to rely on that as a solution. You're not wrong though. And like if I were to do this, like you say, that's totally a solution. But I don't mind doing this. What I would really prefer is to not have to at all. Like it makes more intuitive sense in my mind that this should work without errors. It should just terminate. Like it should just know, oh, that's just the end of a paragraph. There's nothing else. Boom, end of a paragraph. But there's bugs in my Markdown parser, which is built here. Also based off of someone else's parser here. So I'm not going to take full credit for the approach, but it's also not a complete approach. So there's still work for me to do. But this is what I mean here. This is the grammar, right? So you've got a root tag and you've got headings, unordered lists, ordered lists, code, anchors, images, where anchors are links basically, all kinds of stuff like that. I sprinkled in some stuff for interactive code blocks, which I probably need to rethink because it's a little messy. But here, right, basically I don't know a smart way to say, or I don't know the syntax of this perfectly well, so there's bugs related to the definitions of some of these things. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. This, for purposes of getting this design doc finished, it does work well enough that I can actually produce output, which is pretty cool. But what I'm really happy with right now is it's a little slow, but this is actually, like, it does actually compute in the browser. And you can, in fact, manipulate stuff, which I am pretty happy with. I don't know why it's so slow. I mean, there's definitely some real problems there, but I think it's pretty cool. And this, if I inspect this element, this is just an SVG. Like I could go oh, I thought I could put it in its own window, but I suppose not. Anyway, like I could copy. Oh, wait, let me do this. Copy. What am I trying to do? Inner HTML. Copy. Inner HTML. Is this going to work the way I think it is? I hope so. Scratch. XML. Yeah. It's a little gross, but oh, and I copied a little extra there. But this here, this is like valid SVG without, like the SVG has no embedded script in it or anything. So you could like rotate it to some arbitrary angle and save out the SVG. Oh, hey, sorry if I mispronounce your name. If you're still watching, Sly Finn or Sliffin or something like that, I just noticed a follow there. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Hope things are going well for you. Not sure if you're watching. I'm going to assume you are. Thanks for the follow. Feel free to join in on the chat, talk about programming, Clojure, some projects you're working on. If you have questions, you go right ahead and ask, and I'll do my best to answer. But if you also don't want to talk in the chat, nothing wrong with that either. Oh. I wonder if I should... see, I have... There's a lot of optimization I need to do. Things don't run quite as smoothly as I really want them to, because I'm making a lot of naive design decisions. And I'm okay with that because it took me a while to get to some visual output at all. So this is proof that my ideas can work in a nice way. But to get past the usability threshold is really important. It's going to take a while because there's stuff I need to learn. Anyway, enough of that. What library am I using for my SVG rendering? I rolled my own, so not sure if that's helpful to you. I call it stylo here, or building. Yeah, so Sly. I hope I don't butcher name pronunciations too much. I don't know how familiar you are with the language Clojure, but I'm using Clojure to create a sort of 3D modeling kind of environment. The SVG rendering here is done using hiccup syntax, which is kind of like this. If I have actually, where's a good place to show this? If I go into this REPL, maybe I can show you this. Oops, evaluating in the wrong REPL. That's craziness. Why is that? Okay, let's ignore that for now. Let's go here. I'm confusing myself here. Well, maybe there's a better way to show this here. So I'm using, there's a library called Hiccup. It's very well known in Clojure and Clojure Script. This library takes a certain data structure and produces typically HTML, but can produce any XML type structure. So here, for example, this little snippet here, you run the HTML function on your data structure here, and it'll produce a script tag. So here, for example, this is an unordered list with a for loop in it, where you put a list item inside, and it will produce the valid HTML structure there. Using that approach, you can compile, as it were, SVG without real problems. It's exactly the same approach. So I built a library called Stylo, which I keep forgetting. I will have to upload to GitHub because I think it's useful. And I just created a wrapper for all of the SVG elements. In particular, polygon and polyline are really useful. And then using those wrappers, so here's one example. This function circle, you know what, no, I can do it right here, can't I? Yeah. This function, svg/circle, produces this data structure, which when you run it through the Hiccup compiler, turns into valid XML structures, which when you nest inside an SVG tag can be rendered. then on top of that, I have a different library that helps me build these 3D data structures, and I combine the two to produce these renders. And then there's a third sort of layer to it, which is Reagent, which is a React component or React wrapper that helps you build the interactive stuff. So what I'm doing at the moment here is working on building a kind of design document with interactive parameters that change, theoretically live, the 3D structure here. It's a bit of a poor explanation because my head's not in the game today. So apologies if that doesn't make a ton of sense. Please feel free to ask clarifying questions. I'll do my best to show things as I can think of good ways to show them. But yeah, oops. Yeah, I'm using a lot of my own libraries. Clojure is really great in the sense that, nice, what's the 3D library look like? Oh yeah, that's a good question. I'll pull that up. Clojure is really great because a lot of people make a lot of really small but really powerful libraries, and so it's pretty nice to just pull in just little dependencies here and there, not necessarily massive ones, which I really like. Let me pull up the 3D library, which I also need to upload to GitHub soon. Heavy work in progress, by the way. Everything I'm doing on this stream is me learning, prototyping, refining, and building this idea I've got. It's not all smooth. I will not claim that this is all perfect, but it's always stepping in the right direction. So the 3D library I call Forge, and it builds out this, in fact, Forge, I do have Forge right here. Let me try to fix this. Okay, Forge, here we are. If I go Forge Proto and I load file source Forge proto.cljc. Okay, this library currently has the whole idea is it uses two different data representations for 3D objects. The first is called FREP, which is short for functional representation. And functional representation is, come on, if I could use a keyboard, that'd be nice. Functional representation is a pretty cool thing, in my opinion. It basically, let's see if there's a good this is not exactly an elucidating sort of thing. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Let's see if this has a good example. Oh, that looks cool. Oh boy, I'm punishing my computer right now. Nico Quiez, I think. Let's see if he has examples. Okay, this might be a good place to start. Here's an example. Okay, so functional representation is a way to represent 3D volumes. This shader toy example has a bunch of shapes here, right? For every single shape here, there is they call it a signed distance field in the context of this shader, but it's very similar to a functional representation. What it does is you give the function a point in 3D space, and it gives you back a scalar value. Now that value can be negative, 0, or positive in the real numbers. And oops, I wonder, should I shrink? Well, whatever, it's fine. And basically, if it's 0, that means the point you gave it is on the surface of the shape. If it's negative, it's inside the shape. If it's positive, it's outside of the shape. And you can use that with like with ray tracing and sphere tracing and stuff like that to render complex shapes in a cool way. So I could try, if I do frep, do I have a sphere? Yes. So if I do frep sphere in this 3D library, let's give it a radius of 4 just for fun. That returns a function. So what I can do is I can define A to be that function, frep sphere. Now I have a var pointing to a function. So A is that function. If I call A, it gives an error because it's expecting some number of arguments. So in this case, if I do A, 1, 2, 3. Oh, of course, I have to, I believe it should be a point like this. Yes, okay, here we go. So the function A is a functional representation of a sphere in this case. I gave the function the point 1, 2, 3 with x, y, z values is the assumption. It's very normal, so not a big deal. And it gave me a scalar value. It's -2, so that means that this point is inside the sphere. If I do A, let's do a point that's expected to be exactly on the sphere. If I do 0, 4, 0, for example, that's just 4 on the y-axis. That should give me a 0, and it does, because it's exactly on the surface of the sphere. Likewise, if I do, oops, there's one extra thing here. I moved past the sphere, and now it gives me a distance that's beyond the sphere, and it happens to be a distance of 1. In contrast, there's a thing called boundary representation, which uses parametric curves and parametric surfaces to define solids and volumes and stuff like that. This is a common approach in CAD software, but it's got its own pluses and minuses relative to functional representation. So my library here, I'm combining the two. So the set of operations you can do on any shape that you produce in the library will produce valid boundary representation simultaneously with the functional representation. So a simple enough example is to show a polygon. If I do a polygon of regular points, let's give it a radius of 1 and a size of 6, so it's a hexagon. This 3D library gives this data structure, which is maybe hard to follow, but it stores the history of function calls that you use to build it. Not sure if this is smart, because it could very quickly kind of blow up in size. So there might be a better way to store the history, but it's a work in progress. It has it stores the function, the functional representation version of that shape. It stores all of the vertices that are relevant to the shape. So in the case of a polygon, it's got 6 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points you can see in the vertices here. It has a list of curves, which are parametric functions in and of themselves. So if I do, I can make a new example. If I define A to be a brep line, from 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1. It's also a function, but instead of passing a point to it, it's wrong. You have to pass a parameter between 0 and 1. So if I pass 0, it'll give me the point 0. If I pass it 1, it'll give me the point 1, 1, 1. So it's basically giving you values along the curve itself from 0 to 1. So if I do 0.5, I get the exact midpoint of this particular curve, which is half, half, half. So those functions define parametric curves, and so this model has a list of parametric curves that cover what it is. Similarly, you can make parametric surface functions to define the surfaces. And so that's what the surfaces things here is. And when you extrude this into the third dimension, you also get a volume set of functions. So using a bunch of primitive operations, you can build up complex shapes. So this 3D library is not done, not by any stretch. There's a lot of improvements, a lot of math that still needs to happen, but it does let me do stuff like this already, which is pretty neat in my opinion. So that's a long-winded explanation. I hope it made a little bit of sense to you. If not, this is almost certainly stuff that I could stand to kind of make blog posts about, so that there's some more concrete explanations. But as a starting point, I hope that's a little bit clarifying for you. But the whole thing there is, I have a single data structure, right? So you can make a shape, you can do all kinds of transforms on it, and it spits out that exact data structure. So theoretically, rendering it is pretty straightforward. You just pull, if I only want to render a wireframe, you just pull the vertices and draw lines between all the vertices, which is basically what I'm doing here. So that's the short, convoluted explanation. Yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Feel free to keep asking questions though. Right. Well, while I'm not saying anything, I'm gonna just go to the washroom for a minute. So, oh wait, let me see here. This is really cool. I understand the Clojure script and data orientation, but the 3D stuff is all new. Really interesting using functions like that to describe 3D shapes. Yeah, Sly, I totally agree. It is so cool to use continuous functions like that to define some 3D space. There's a bunch of, if I could use the right, there's a bunch of prior work with this stuff, and like there's always so much to do and improve on yet. This Matt Keeter has a blog here, and he's got a bunch of projects that, this is where I originally heard of it. If I go here to lib5, for example, this is just a GIF, but he's got this studio program that uses frep, but not brep, but he uses frep to make all these cool shapes and stuff. So there's some crazy examples. You can do all kinds of weird stuff. So it's actually pretty trivial to do unions and differences and stuff like that. So you can just from simple primitives with translation, rotation, union, difference, and intersection, you can make pretty complex shapes already. But you can even add remappings, so you can add twists to any shape. You can even, this is called blend here, you can use continuous functions to blend the shape together. It's very fascinating, very cool stuff. I'll leave one other thing on the screen while I go to the washroom though. I'm not sure how many people have ever heard of this program, OpenSCAD. This is not this does not necessarily use functional representation, but it uses a programming language to make 3D models. Now the big downside here, like people have used it to make entire 3D printer files. It's quite fascinating, very cool. But you can't export these 3D files into, say, SolidWorks. You can't export them as step files, at least not without basically a whole new program. So it's really good for 3D printing stuff, but not necessarily for industrial design, as it were. So that's kind of one of the motivations I have for wanting to do a combination functional representation with boundary representation. Eventually I want to be able to build step exporters and try to build links to programs like Inventor and SolidWorks and stuff, but that's an ambitious goal, a little ways down the line. But yeah, so OpenSCAD, really cool program that exists already, uses a lot of my inspirations coming from this, tons of inspiration coming from Lib5, Matt Keeter as well, and it's enough chatting for the moment. I'm gonna go to the washroom. I won't be long, but yeah, poke around, stick around. I'll be like 2 minutes, I promise. There. All right, I'm back. Oh, let's see here. You know what you should do? Use the 3D rendering stuff to create a BRB screen. So in 3D letters, it's back in 5. Yeah, actually, Mike, that's a great idea, and it's been on my list of. It has in fact crossed my mind to have a Be Right Back screen. And using the 3D rendering would even be cool too, because then it's just a fun little use case. I'll just fully admit that I've been too lazy to do it. But it's actually a really good point. It is there's like a lot of little things that I really probably should focus and do to make this stream present a little more nicely, a little more professionally, and the Be Right Back screen is a good call. Never enough hours in the day. Yeah, you totally got that right. It's a bit of a, I have a bit of a weird, no, that's, how do I say it? I'm trying to think about how I stream in a careful way. I really like doing it. It's a lot of fun for me, but I don't want, and I want to make it better and keep doing it and building it and all that stuff. That's fun. But I want to avoid turning it into an obligation that I start to really dislike. So for things like a Be Right Back screen, it's obviously nice to have, but not strictly speaking necessary, right? And not necessary in the way that a microphone is necessary or a screen capture device is necessary. So sometimes I use that thinking to let myself off the hook. I gotta find that balance, because I do want to make it look nice. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. Using the 3D rendering to make some kind of cool screen would be, I think that's perfect. I think that's the solution right there. Maybe I could do it on stream once. That might be a cool idea. It would be pretty cool. It'd be neat too, because I'd have to build, I'd have to make a little script that, I don't know how I would do it, but this is an SVG, right? In order to display stuff on the stream itself, I'm using OBS, and I could theoretically have a server running like a browser instance, and it could render moving stuff from the browser, like from a browser source. But I'm not running this at the moment on the most powerful computer, and it doesn't work that well. So what I would do is have a pre-rendered video that is overlaid. And now to make a video from something like this, it's totally possible, but I have to basically script, instead of running it in the browser, I build out a pipeline that saves an SVG per frame of animation, then run a conversion from SVG to PNG, and then stitch all the PNGs together with FFmpeg or something. So it'd be like some like crazy Frankenstein's monster of different scripts. It'd be kind of fun. Maybe I'm gonna write myself a note so that I remember to do this. Because that would be a really fun little project. There. Now you feel bad for sending me down a bottomless rabbit hole? Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll be fine. There's never enough time in a day, because there's always more things that are fun to do, right? And I'd rather have an abundance of ideas than a dearth of ideas. This is the better side of the idea problem, in my opinion. Now the issue becomes prioritizing, right? No, this will be fun. It's a great idea, honestly. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. But on that note, I've written it down so I can take it out of my mind and try to get into the mindset of this again for a minute. So what I'm thinking would be cool is producing a view of the plate and handle independently, and having the user input values kind of on like as a story, right? They read about the idea behind the project, then they get to see the first piece and lock in a definition. So let's see if I can make a view of just the front view of the hex plate, and then see if I can print like the dimension in a useful way on it. So that'll be the next thing that I could do here. Okay, so what I can do, no, I wonder, I might have already made that view, I don't remember. Part view, plate ISO, as in isometric, and handle ISO. So what I could do instead of plate ISO, I could make a plate front view. So let's just start by copy paste. You know, people say don't repeat yourself, but sometimes it's important, or much easier to do it that way. For tiny projects like this, it's not that big a deal and can actually be more readable than not. That's not always true though, and you can kind of give yourself excuses to not think through what you're doing. So copy paste is risky. It's not always bad though. Front. So I happen to have a view transformer already. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of the axes view. I'm going to change the figure number. This is going to be figure 1. Yeah, I suppose it is. And it's going to be front view of hex plate. The scale, oh yes, I'm gonna also not delete these globals, but I'm gonna rework this globals approach here. Do call it state, put it into a map. That's definitely the better approach. Oh, of course I do need to use r/atom, and now it's a map. And one at a time, I'm gonna put into the state map these different values. This is hard to Google. What does the less than, greater than sign in reagent mean? Oh, that's right. That's a great question. It's a how do I describe it effectively? I wonder if I could just actually run it like this. Let's see if this gives me a result here. Not helpful. I think Mike might be right on the money there. I know I had to use it because svg/fig. Oh right, so it was related to it. Basically, I think of it like it's as if you're using a div. It wraps everything into a group, right? But if I don't want to nest all of this stuff one layer deeper in the div, I can use this. So it just doesn't, it basically treats everything inside it as a group, but reagent then does not render it into a div tag itself. That's what I use that for. I think Mike might have the right understanding of it. Basically, it's just not empty. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. That's all I use it for. Honestly, it might have other intended use cases, but I'm not sure. I just know that I found it when looking up nested div stuff or something like that. It's been a while. I don't know. There. Okay, plate front. Only real difference I need to do here, well, there's a few things. First of all, I'm going to pass in as an argument state, let's see if I can actually build this in a nice way. Let's see if I understand atoms or reagent well enough. There is a chance that I don't. Yeah, scale's good. Hey, Lumi, how's it going? It's been a while. Hope you're doing okay. Been a bit busy, but doing well. Hey, I'm glad to hear it. This is looking good. Yeah, thanks. Progress is slow but steady, but I'm happier and happier with my like how I'm thinking about separating out different parts of the code, slowly understanding how I want things to run. It's nice. It's absolutely not perfect, but steady steps in the right direction. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see if I can do this in the way that in a good way here. So I think I could do a let statement with keys and stuff, but for the sake of simplicity, let's take scale from state. And this plate function, I'm gonna have to rebuild it, but let's see if I can get something at least working. Let's go R from state as well, where we call our this is gonna I'm cheating. I want to see. I don't know if this will work. This might break it, but we'll see. And we'll just slowly refine our thinking about this, because I did not design this well at all. I have functions that rely on the existence of like a global variable, but some of the variables are passed in as arguments. It's just not clean. So this is an opportunity to clean it up. That's not all gonna happen on stream though, because I'm running out of time a little bit, but we'll get there. Oh yeah, my head is a little all over the place today, so sorry if there's anyone watching and just isn't following what's going on. I'll tell you that I'm not totally following today either. It's just one of those days, but I do have to write some notes to myself here. Yeah. Let's see. I guess they're technically bound to the namespace. It's not quite global. Yeah, I'm using global in kind of a sort of quotation form, but to my eyes, this seems like a mistake without being able to explain it exactly why I feel that way. Oh, Mike, I'm just looking at what Mike posted here. Oh, it's related to the open bracket, close bracket thing. Oh, greater than, less than. Cool. Hey, thanks, by the way, for people in chat. Just Studying Fulcro at the moment, whose state lives in a normalized database with a transactional system. Cool. In general, hey, thanks everyone for helping each other out in the chat too. That's one thing that I do really love about other programming streams, is people not only interacting with the streamer but helping each other out in the chat. That's cool. So keep it up if you like it. I'm happy that you're doing it. Hey Lumi, am I sure that I need atoms there? I was using atoms to make these all reactive, in the sense that so for example, this zoom, this scale, G scale thing here is just a number, but it's tied to, its value is tied to this slider, which is obviously a little slow. And when that value changes, then the SVG gets re-rendered with that new thing. And that's true for every one of these things in these atoms. They're reacting to some UI component state change. That was the idea. Yeah, I vary them with the sliders. Yeah. No, if I'm only putting into atoms the things that I am intending to change with the UI. But like I said, this is a bit of a thrown together prototype, so there's stuff that I haven't thought about correctly. So please forgive any glaring mistakes as a little bit of naivete, if you will. But the real goal of this particular thing that I'm working on is I have access to a metal shop, and we can cut flat steel sheet, and if we use the right scraps, we can cut a lot. And then we can weld all the plates together and weld them onto a metal handle, and you've got a dumbbell for weights. Recommend you put everything into one map instead. Yeah, Lumi, that's a great idea. I'm right in the middle of this will not exist. When I've gone through and refactored everything, you're totally right. It'll all be in a single thing. I'm calling it state. It might make sense to call it params or something like that. But I'm in the process of changing it over. But yeah, that's a good recommendation. But the whole thrust of this thing is to be able to get designs out by only ever giving a few minimum parameters. In particular, I want, if you change the mass, if it automatically calculates the design to get you as close to that mass as possible. So the actual mass right now is 31.825 compared to your desired, which is here. And there's one thing I haven't added in, which is you can reach your desired mass exactly by calculating a smaller hex plate that you weld onto the ends. But that's a work in progress. Then you'd use cursors to zoom into the right places. Our cursors. Shoot, there was a let me just I'm curious, are reactions, is that part of the cursors approach, or is that different? Because my understanding is you can basically define a variable that's sort of linked to the state map, and that becomes, I don't know if it's the same as a cursor, but I've messed around with it a bit. Not sure if reactions are the same. Okay, let's see. Where was I with this? Plate front. R from state. Okay, shape. Instead of the isometric transform, you want to do the front transform. Let me see if this makes any sense at all. I'm gotta clean this up too. There's more to clean. There's a lot of stuff to clean up. That's what I recognize. That's okay. I'm not sure if this will work. We'll find out. Okay. The answer is not really. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, you know what? It might be transform scale 1. Okay, so the points are all there. The scale shouldn't be 0, 0. Something went wrong there. Let me see if it's even... I don't know what that is. Alright, I have to hit the drawing board again on this one. That's not a problem though. Why is it like that? Let's go and have a look at the function. It's a better way to find things out. Okay. Didn't know there was something to handle brittle paths in reagent. So I don't know what that means, to be honest. Brittle paths. Let's see here. I wonder if this rotate is part of the issue. If I do things the cheat way, oh, well, first of all, I do believe I have to deref state here, and then maybe this will fix it. Let's see. The answer is no. Oh, well, now the thing is, I'm of course calling in the doc here, right? I'm calling plate front without the argument, which it needs the state to be passed in. I don't know a lot. There's more things that I don't know than that I do know. I'm not sure if that makes a difference. Lots to learn, lots to do. Okay, we're in the ballpark of getting something. It appears that that's not changing based on this. So there's something, I'm doing something wrong, which is totally great. I don't mean that sarcastically even a little bit. I wonder if I'm dereffing in the wrong spot here. Like if this function requires some state in, if I assume it's dereffed already, not sure, we'll find out. And then I deref it here when I call the function. Does that actually work? We'll see. Let's see. Oh. Not sure. Oh, Sly, the word creep got auto-modded. In this instance, creep is a perfectly reasonable thing to say. Okay, but so your point is, if you've got this massive state, it's got some hierarchy and logic that builds it up over time. You can use cursors kind of to sort of make thin slices of the state, right? Almost you can kind of look at just a small part of it, I'm guessing. Not supposed to deref at a higher level, really. It'll make it'll make the right components update when you use cursors. Okay, so this is, thanks for the pointers, Lumi, and the explanations there, Sly. You're supposed to make cursors and then deref at the use site. Okay, that is good to know. I'm gonna, so I remember to look it up. I'm gonna put a little tab there. I'm not gonna teach myself how to do it properly on the spot. I am going to do it wrong and fix it off stream, because I have to leave soon anyway, to be honest. But well, wait a second, I can also leave myself a little note here. Learn how to use cursors. It is probably best to build cursors and deref as close to use site as possible. Let's just change this and make it say it is better to build cursors and deref at use site rather than deref the entire state. There. Don't need to hedge. It's my own notes anyway. There are edge cases though, very large lists, where this won't work out of the box. Okay. So this is what I mean. Like, you bring this up as a topic, it seems totally important. But there's edge cases, like you say. I'm not going to be able to learn it quickly, intelligently while I'm streaming. So please understand if I don't use it all right up front. Just still learning stuff, right? But this does seem like this makes sense. Here, makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, right? Because you can even see the kind of the weakness of how I did it first, right? There's just all kinds of ats kind of sprinkled, and it works, right? But it's not really clean, nor is it exactly clear what's going on. So that's something to improve for sure. Where was I? What was I at? What was I doing? I also forget there is significance to using the square brackets in reagent function calls, but I don't remember what those are either, unfortunately. Let's also, while I'm messing with this plate front view, I wonder if I need to not rotate it. Okay, so we at least have the correct view there. Let's rotate it on the X by, I do believe it's 20, no, by 30, is it? To get it, oh, that's the wrong axis. Let's see here. You either make a subcomponent or just directly call the function. If it's a subcomponent, it can update all by itself. If it is not, only the upper function can. Okay. If it's a subcomponent, it can update all by itself. If it's not, only the upper one can. That, let's see here. Okay. that's presumably that's useful for building up sort of nested component structures and stuff, I'm kind of guessing, right? Like if my document were just a straight list of functions that work on the state, right? There's no if there were no nested function inside of it, it wouldn't really matter, unless I'm misunderstanding that as well. Lots to learn. Think of the square brackets are like async rendering, telling it to instantiate another component, and round brackets, parens, as synchronous rendering, just giving it the result as data, sort of. Yeah, so that's a better way of verbalizing what I'm trying to struggle through in my head here. So probably if I read through the reagent docs again, because it's been a while since I've done that, I'll probably have a better understanding of it. I'm sure it's not that complicated. It just is only that the sort of part at the end is where my head is getting stuck, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let's just, I have to go soon. I just want to get this view looking kind of like how I want it to look. Okay. That's a start. Right, it's still, this is still not working, which is fine because I have to figure out how to make it work anyway. If I cheat, G plate radius. Okay, it does work when I cheat. This is not linked to it, so that doesn't change anything. Zoom and plate radius. One thing that it's hard to see here, but is a problem with how I have no logic to cull non-visible faces. If you get into performance optimization, there are cases where you'd want to separate or merge, so that's why you have the ability. But just default to square brackets unless you have a reason not to. Okay, that's helpful actually as a good starting point. Let me make sure I change this part back, and then talking about optimization, that will eventually become an important consideration, but I don't even fully know what I need to do to get all of my ideas working at all. So there's a few things that can happen kind of before it, but doing things intelligently from the start is probably a good call. But as a useful default, that is quite helpful. Thanks for that. But what I was saying, and this will be the last thing probably, I gotta go soon. In the rendering that I've got here, it does not cull back faces or anything that has overlaps. There's nothing built in for that yet because I went for the easiest thing that would still draw. So here, for example, you can see it. This polyline at the bottom here, if I just delete this from the DOM, there's still a line there, and that's because this plate has a thickness, and it is rendering both the front line and the back line, right? So one fully occludes the other, but it's not deleting it. So it draws, like, it fills up your DOM quite a bit, which is not great. The other thing, or another thing, you could
you can build into the render kind of like, there are optimizations in terms of the data used. So this I know is a straight line, but the polyline that's being rendered here has more than 2 points in its list. And that's because I just subdivided the curve by some constant in the render function. That constant I think I used was 7 or 11, because on a circle it's important, you need to subdivide it a little bit to make a nicer circle, but on a straight line there's no reason to subdivide it at all. But I haven't built in any logic or like intelligence, as it were, any cases into the rendering. I just blasted it all through the same one. So there's a few things that can be optimized quite a bit, but that turns into a big old set of work on its own. So that's why I didn't do it all right away. But so there, right, I had to delete 2 lines to get rid of that line. And if I were to rotate it in 3D space, you could see why it broke, or why there were 2 lines there. So there's a lot of optimization in terms of how to handle that too. Okay, last, let me make just a little note to myself here. I have to switch all part. I don't need to make a note of this. Okay, I'm losing the plot, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. My brain is at that almost done for the day point. Yeah. Is there anything useful to do yet? Oh, I wonder, do I have I think I have a text element. I don't remember if I implemented that in a smart way, or I do have a text element. Yes, text. Let's see. I see nothing. Why would that be? Let's have a look. Let's inspect this element. Reason I'm trying to figure that out is because I might want to build a little function that draws like a dimension line and displays as a text element in the SVG. It displays the R value here with its units or whatever. Not sure yet. So this is a good last thing to start working on. Figure out how I can get a text element to show properly in my SVG and move it to a good location with some transforms. And then that'll be it for the day. And if that takes more than let's say 15 to 20 minutes, then I'm just gonna call it quits at that point. I think that's a reasonable use of my time. I think that's fine. Maybe it's not even being rendered here. Did I just miss it? Well, okay, let me see here. SVG/text. This is text. It does. Okay, it can work. Okay, that's not scrolling through up and down won't reveal anything new to me, so enough of that. What's going on? What's going on? I wonder if this is some problem with how grouping is handled. Doesn't seem to be that. Maybe it's a translate issue. Okay. Let's try 100, get it close to the middle. That's not it. Okay. What am I doing wrong? I'm missing something obvious, I think. Let's just get rid of everything. Oh, here's what I'm doing wrong. I'm editing the wrong function. Oh boy. Craziness. Okay. Very silly of me. That's my apologies. Okay. Let's see if we can put svg/text in here, see where it shows up, if it shows up. Well, it did something, kinda. Oh, wow. It's really obvious there. I would imagine that the text size is way too big. It does scale with the scale of that. That's a good thing. Anyway. Okay. I think I might have to revisit my assumptions for how I handled the text element. What I did was pick a monospace font, figure out the point width of every character, and then made a center. I made it shift the text to the center based on the width of the character times the number of characters. And the reason I did that was I thought at the time it would be a consistent reference point that would help me make boxes around it and stuff like that. But there's almost certainly smarter approaches that don't have me manually creating a layout system just for text. So that's just me thinking out loud to myself about how I have to handle a lot of things. I also don't know if it's possible that my scale function doesn't work on text yet. It might. Translate. Let's rewrite this part. We'll use a thread macro. It's a little nicer. I do have to thread last though, because I was inconsistent when I wrote some of this. make the text string at g plate radius with inches is the default units in this case. So we're going to thread that through a scale of, we'll assume 0.1 makes sense for now, and a svg slash scale, svg slash translate some x, some y. Okay. Oh, I don't need to close the group. Alright, is this gonna work? Kinda. Okay. I lost it. It does exist, right? Let's scale it just at 1. Translate it 0, 0. It exists. Okay. The scale, something's going a little weird with that. Translate. I don't know what's going on. This is not an ergonomic approach to design. So this text approach needs to I need like a helper function to kind of wrap it all into a more sensible, usable method or something. Because this is kind of ridiculous. To have to move all this stuff around all the time is not particularly helpful. But we're getting closer. Let's do lost it again. Okay, I don't know what's happening. This is a little confusing to me. Okay, this is crazy. This is a little ridiculous. Let's have a look for 1 second. If I inspect this, let's get a value for something close to the middle, and we can kind of go from there, right? If I have a look at these points, right, they're close to zeros all around, and text, x and y are these crazy numbers. The transform, okay. Alright, I for sure need to revisit how I handle the text here, because I'm abusing this rotation transform to center things. It's clever, but it's not helpful. Right, so That's not good. Or that's certainly not a helpful approach that I've built up there, so that's something to fix. But it does work in the sense that if I change the radius of that, it theoretically, it recalculates its position, of course. But it does change the value here, which is good. That's also to be expected, right? There's nothing new going on there. It's almost certainly smart to, for every point here, truncate or round to only 3 or 4 decimal places so that the DOM isn't full of all of these crazy long float values. Okay, that's going to be helpful, but that's also going to be something to work on a little bit later, I think. Although, maybe it's quick and easy. Let's see here. If I do curve render, let points B subdivide this curve. Okay. So what I can do, so points is a list of points. I mean, I can do if I concatenate, if I apply concatenate to some list of points, 1 1 1 2 2 2, and then if I partition 3, not sure if this is helpful, but I learned an interesting pattern lately. As thread, hello world, first, last. Yeah, I've used this. The threading macros are so awesome. I really like them. So it's like a normal threading macro, thread first or thread last, treats whatever value you have here as like, it's like the implied value, right? But thread as the expression A, and the name is something, count something. Yeah, this is a very contrived and useless example, but it does the same thing. Yeah, I've used the I think it's called the as threading macro. Yeah, it's a great one. I've used it before. I'm trying to be super lazy here with this. I'm just trying to come up with a silly set of things to do, just to prove to myself that it would work. Well, I can do this. I could do lazy for point in points. There's probably patterns around mapping a function onto something like on a nested list instead of just on a list directly, but I don't really know that off the top of my head, so I'm gonna just do it this way. Call it rounded points. So for point in points, what you do to each point is map v the function f/round the value to 3 decimal places point. Okay, and then now this is otherwise all exactly the same, and that should maybe work. I will have to, it will not have worked right away, right? There's still all this craziness. I have to kind of force refresh a few things. Read string, why is that showing up? I'll ignore that for now. Let's ignore the problem. Hey, look at that. It worked. So all I did here, I just used a for list thing. This function is just f/round rounds some float to some number of decimal places. Oh, right. It's in this namespace. There we go. 1, 2 decimal places, or 3. Very simple. So all I'm doing is just getting the list of points, and then for each of those points you just round each of the values. That's all. Going out for a run while you still have some sunlight. See you on the next stream. Hey Mike, thanks for joining in. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good run. You know, put in some hustle. Enjoy it. I really appreciate you joining in today. It was awesome. Have a good one. Yeah, so this points in R points are, for the sake of rendering into a small SVG thing, they're close enough to the same that it's fine. And it cuts down the text size of the DOM, and presumably if you're trying to like save it to a file, it's helpful. So that's a decent start. The other thing here is I want to be able to do this here, this subdivide curve. I want to be able to have this subdivision number be adaptive in some sense. If the curve is known to be a straight line, this number can go to 1. But if it's curved, you want it to be higher, say 24. If you know it's an arc, you want to do that. Yeah, so there's room to improve that. Yeah, that's what I've got for the day. I think I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna follow in Mike's lead and actually head to the gym. I think that'll be a good fun thing to do. Okay, zoom, desired mass, yeah. Okay. Right, well, that is going to be it for me for the day. Everyone who's tuned in and participated in the chat and all that, thank you so much. I always appreciate that. It's one of the things that really makes me enjoy streaming. The other thing is I actually managed to get some good work done. I mean, it's not as productive as if I'm just sitting there and writing, but on a day where I don't otherwise want to touch my computer, it gets me going, and that's always great. It's Tuesday today, yes. So I do not stream on Wednesdays, but I should be back on Thursday, and maybe I'm gone this Friday. I'm not sure yet. But if you want to tune in again and join in on the chat, I will be around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday this week again, and I'll take it from there. So that's all I've got. Thanks for everything. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one, everyone.